This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of January 29th, 2024. In fact, we are recording this on January 30th to be released tomorrow. Is tomorrow the 1st, February 1st? Or is it
no, 31st. You got
31st.
Got to say the song in your head, right?
I've never learned the song. That's something I never admit to anybody until now. I've never learned the song in my life. I got to do that one of these times. I'm only 43 years old. But yeah, thank you for everybody coming into the show. Just a reminder, us on social media, the DBC Pod, anywhere you can find social media, Twitter or X, Insta, Facebook, YouTube channel. And of course, our Discord server, hop on. A lot of good conversation going on this week, especially with the Epic Universe announcements that came out today. We're going to talk a lot about that just in a moment. But first, we also want to welcome newest member of the community, Glenn Davis. Thank you for joining in Discord. Make sure you hop in and join the conversation. We really, really appreciate everybody else's, our new people's opinions, I guess. And this wouldn't be a good show unless I remembered to mention our email address, if that's your preferred way of communication. And remember, it's not the DBC Pod, it's the DBC Podcast at gmail.com. Only platform where we couldn't get this DBC Pod. Or wait, we've just had it, right? And we've had
that for like a long time, and I haven't looked into switching it. So maybe that'll be my project for the weekend.
Okay, there you go. That email address is getting on almost. What are we at? We're almost at 4 years now, Phil.
Yep, we're in our 4th year. Yeah,
almost 5 in a couple months.
Yeah, March will be 5.
That is absolutely amazing.
Closing in on show 200.
Yes. But you know what? That doesn't count all of our MCU and Star Wars.
No, just weekly show. Yeah, we're almost up to 200 weekly shows. Yeah.
So that's the only ones that matter. Anyway, so I always like to say like what's going on in your Disney World or our Disney World, as this segment is called. But it's really what's going on in our universe today.
Yeah.
Because this morning at like 8 o'clock in the morning, Epic Universe or Universal Studios put a live broadcast of their Epic Universe announcement, right? There's nothing that was like really interesting and new information. If you've been following Alicia Stella or anybody else on Twitter or BioReconstruct, very good sources of pictures and kind of updates. But it was kind of like their official announcement since, I don't know, was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where they announced that they were like breaking ground type of thing. And then they kind of went quiet from a marketing point of view. But today they put out an excellently put together video where like it had high production value, had 3D renderings where you kind of soared through and you got a good visual of the parks. They announced all the different properties of everything. And I thought it was like a really cool announcement, right? We don't see this like flash and bang from Disney World anymore, unfortunately, because it's all blue sky kind of doldrums and that type of thing. But what were your initial impressions, Phil, after watching this kind of like announcement video? What came immediately to your head?
My first thought was just how, I think similar to you, how well it was put together, but how exciting it makes the park look. It basically everything that I was hoping for the park, that they were envisioning it as this like one cohesive plan, kind of thinking about all the detail they put into the existing Harry Potter lands, thinking, okay, that's what they're going to put into an entire park. And that's what this came off as. It felt a little more like the storyline of the park itself felt more cohesive and kind of, this idea that you're kind of in this world between worlds. And it's kind of this, sort of, outer space type theme type thing. And you're going through different portals and stuff. And it made that whole central area sound way more interesting than maybe I thought it was going to be before. So it kind of got me more excited for the park as a whole versus the individual lands, which I think has kind of been the focus in the past. Yep. So, and like you said, it felt like it's kicking off to, we're probably only 18 months, if that, from an opening. And I think it's really going to kind of kick into overdrive. And I saw like they mailed out or arrived at all the vloggers' houses today like this little like sculpture thing of the entranceway with like a medallion for the
Yep.
center part, and then they're going to get another medallion for each of the worlds. Like they're just really building up
Going
the
all
hype.
out.
Yeah, and it's exciting because, you know, like you said, there hasn't been tons of excitement about Disney of late. So I think this is everyone I think is eager for some excitement and positivity type thing, and this is people are latching onto it big time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Universal guy. I've never been to Universal Orlando, so I only know from other people's experiences, talking with you, watching videos, and outside like the Harry Potter areas, it seemed like the park was never really well put together. It seemed kind of like an amalgamation of just ideas and not super well themed areas and that type of thing. But obviously, the Harry Potter stuff is one of the best themed areas in North America. A lot of people sing its praises. It's the reason why Disney spent all those billions of dollars on Galaxy's Edge. And I'm really super excited for Universal to kind of finally put a park together that's been designed from the ground up with all the lessons learned, all the different talent that they have over there. And I think it's really going to give a Disney a run for its money. So a couple things I wanted to point out is the central area hub is a little different. Like you mentioned, like you walk in, you go through a portal. There's a lot of green space. There's a lot of comments that this is what Epcot should have been type of thing.
It does sort of look like what the central spine of Epcot should have been with the greenery and the waters, but also kind of these sort of futuristic looking structures and stuff like that.
My only point out to a lot of people is Epcot doesn't have that much space to do all this stuff anyway. So, I mean, they could have done a different version of this, but it was never going to be this type of version. But I thought it looked gorgeous. One of the interesting things is like the park doesn't really have like a weenie, right? There's no castle. It's the hotel in the backdrop, right?
Yeah.
You go from the entrance down the spine to it's like gardens and stuff like that. There's 2 restaurants. There's the big carousel. There's a big fountain area. But then behind it, over the whole park is a hotel, which I think is not a great thing, but also potentially an amazing thing at the same time, right? Right. Like the castle, the hotel is probably going to be all lit up in amazing colors. They're going to do shows on it. They're going to do all type of stuff with it, I imagine. Yeah. But it's kind of boring because it's a hotel. But then if you get a chance to stay in that hotel, that's freaking amazing. Like, I mean, that's something I would love to see at Disney World, right? You know, a hotel that's attached to Magic Kingdom or, Hollywood Studios. I think that would be really great. So I'm really interested to see if when you're there, does it look like just like a fancy looking hotel, like just sticking up for the park, or will it feel like integrated and like part of the experience? So I'm looking forward to that. But I was also curious, and maybe I just totally slipped my mind. I always knew about the carousel, but I didn't know there was going to be a roller coaster like right in the center area. How do you feel about like a thrill ride kind of being like, it means like, imagine a roller coaster in like, right by Casey's Corner, like right outside of that.
It's interesting because the bulk of the coasters is kind of off to the side, but the entrance to it, I guess, will be right in the center there. So it's located, from like a map standpoint as part of that Celestial Park area. It's kind of interesting to your point. Like, like even if you didn't see the coaster, but it's like, welcome to Main Street. Here's the entrance to this giant coaster, dueling racing thing. Or even if it was at, Epcot or something like that, it's kind of an interesting play. It does feel a little like, obviously the theme is playing into it. But it does feel a little disconnected from the rest of the center, which seems a little more relaxing, like serene and like kind of wandering Epcot, like, for lack of a better comparison. And then, but it also has this crazy coaster. So it seems a little discontent. It seems like we wanted to get another coaster in there and we needed to figure out how to do it. And this is what we did.
I can imagine, like, we've talked about this, like Project Gemini and stuff like that for Epcot. Like, there were plans to potentially put a roller coaster in Spaceship Earth, like,
and coming out of it. Like so that's actually a really good example. You would have seen these coaster coming in and out of Spaceship Earth and stuff. So yeah.
I think that's a good analogy. So one of the things that was in one of the print announcements in some of the articles was somebody was quoted, and forgive me, I don't know who to attribute this quote to, but it was part of the article. It says the theme park offers an entirely new level of experience by putting guests in 5 fully themed worlds, and the themed worlds are Nintendo Land, Monsters, Harry Potter, How to Train Your Dragon, and the Celestial area. I guess they're calling that a themed land. to me, the one that comes out to me, because it's basically there's 5 IP lands. That's basically what it is, right? They're completely divided from the park. You walk through a portal, boom, you're in this universe or this world of character and IP. Immediately that came to my mind was this is what Hollywood Studios kind of is, but not fully.
Yeah.
So my question is, should Hollywood Studios mimic what Epic Universe is doing, assuming it's successful? What do you think down the line? Is Disney going to take notice from that?
It'll be interesting to see if they do. It would be an interesting way to. I guess they kind of do it with like the tunnel you have to walk through to get into Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that. But yeah, if the other areas did that, if you had to do more of a portal, gateway to get into Toy Story Land or to get into classic Hollywood Land or whatever it is, and kind of make them a little bit more. Because you're right, in Hollywood Studios they don't necessarily all flow together. So to making it a little bit more delineated, like we are taking you from like the real world into this other area, which is I think what they're trying to do with like, oh, now you're a toy in Andy's backyard, but it doesn't feel fully transportive. Like I think this will with these portals where you can't really see what's behind them until you go through them.
You definitely have like, it's the feeling like when you walk through the train station and you peek around and you see the castle down Main Street, right? It's a transformative experience. And you get that with Galaxy's Edge because you're walking kind of through that tunnel. I think it's a great experience. You get that through one side of Toy Story Land coming from Galaxy's Edge a little bit. Like you start hearing the music, but not so much in, I guess, the front entrance by Roundup Barbecue. So, but my question then would be like, should Hollywood Studios, bring this more back to a Disney point of view, or should they, in future, building, because even Len Tess has been saying previously on his shows and everything else, they think like instead of doing the Animal Kingdom thing, they're going to be main focus on Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. So there's going to be more investment. And so right now, the only thing worth going to at Hollywood Studios for the most part are the Galaxy's Edge rides and the Toy Story rides with, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror just kind of sitting over there on the side, just kind of doing what they do. And you have the Hollywood stuff. Should they like demo like Art of Animation to put another IP land over there? And we're not going to talk about what kind of IP. That's a question for another silly show. But should Hollywood Studios go for like, you got Hollywood Land in the middle and then all just IP lands stamped, like you got the one Rock and Roller Coaster gets rethemed to something and there's the land back there, and then you've got the land, you get rid of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and maybe Echo Lake and you just put another land over there somehow, however it looks, and then maybe down the road you put another land somewhere else and blah 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 blah. You do that type of thing. Should that the direction of Hollywood Studios go? Do you think it's going to be a popular thing like in Epic Universe?
I think so. I mean, obviously it's more explicit with Epic Universe with these portals and stuff, but if you think back even in Magic Kingdom or the original Disneyland, right, you kind of have to cross the bridge to get into Adventureland and the music changes and stuff like that, and you are sort of taken from one place into another, and there's that, well, it's just an open bridge and stuff and you can see beyond. It is,
sure,
like you said, somewhat transportive. So yeah, that does seem, other than Galaxy's Edge, missing from Hollywood Studios, where you kind of just like, oh, I guess we're in like old timey Hollywood. Oh wait, now there's like Rock and Roller Coaster, and then the other way, it's like, oh, there's the Chinese theater, but then it's like Toy Story Land or something. It's or the Little Mermaid show for some reason. Like things don't really. If it's not going to be a cohesive thing, then having these more clear delineations, I think, makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that'd be great if they did that at Hollywood Studios.
I think we're gonna get a better idea, hopefully, at D23 where they're gonna go. Because here's another thing that we're talking about on Discord and a lot of places on social media and forums and stuff like that. I personally was saying, like, people are going after Disney, like, oh, Disney needs to announce something now, or they need to like bring up Tiana's to counter this. I'm like, there's nothing Disney can do to counter a brand new park from this type of scope. And Disney has nothing that's being prepared. If they were smart, Epic Universe has been going on for I don't know how many years. Disney should have started planning this so that they can then piggyback off of their success and kind of siphon off or keep people coming to Disney World, but then go to Universal, because they're not going to stop people from going to Epic Universe when this opens, right?
Yeah.
But because Disney did not plan properly, especially under Chapek, where now it's going to be people are going to go to Epic Universe for a week and then do a day or two at Disney rather than going to Disney and doing a day or two at Epic Universe, right? So because they don't have anything lined up that's bringing people back. Which brings me to the next point is there was a quote from Mark Woodbury, CEO of Universal Destinations Experience, and he said, Epic Universe represents a tremendous addition, almost doubling the size of Universal Orlando Resort. This gives us the opportunity to bring people to Universal Orlando for an entire week of the most incredible experiences that they can imagine. To me, that's like shots fired, right? Because Epic Universal Studios has not been able to get people there for a week. It's like 2 days, and then they do Disney. I mean, you did the same thing like a year and a half ago, right? It's like you spend a couple days at Universal, and then you do your Disney trip. Yep. And it's mostly like a transitory type of thing, and you kind of do it, you tag it on somewhere. But you don't, that's not a destination for a vacation. Like you're doing Universal when you're doing an Orlando trip, but you're not doing
for most people, for sure. Yeah.
And you're not doing a Universal trip. You might go down for like Harry Potter, but you're not going down for all the other parks. So, from your point of view, and we got a lot more to talk about this type of stuff in days and years to come. Does Epic Universe, first for you personally, does Epic Universe think, because I know you have plans, tentative plans at least. Does it become a full week destination for you? And do you think it'll be a full week destination for the general public?
It definitely makes it closer. I guess the thing I'm kind of struggling with, and it kind of came to my answer, is I don't know if I could do like 7 days straight at Universal like I could do at Disney, because there's more variety. It's easier to take things easy. Sometimes it felt like when we were at Universal, it was more go, 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 like get to the next attraction, more thrill rides, more like, and after like 2 to 3 days, it was kind of like, I'm kind of good for a while, you know? Sure. So that's why, my thought is maybe do more of like a longer Orlando trip where a good chunk of that is going to Universal and Epic Universe. And across 2 weeks, maybe we do 6 or 7 park days, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the way we tour or the types of attractions we like. I would struggle to do like 7 days in a row at Universal, even with Epic Universe. The other thing I'm wondering is,
well, let me preface it. Let's say when I say a week, right? I'm assuming you got 2 travel days where you're not doing anything. Maybe you have a rest day. So there's like 4 park days essentially. So like in a week there, most people will do probably 4 or 5 park days while they're at Disney if they're going for a week for the most part. So do you think you could do 4 days at?
Yeah, 4 days I could do now, especially with a rest day in there, especially now with Epic Universe. The thing I wonder is how much is this going to take away from the other parks at Universal?
Okay.
Like, because there's not as much, like, there's good things there, and they have been adding things. They're even working on the DreamWorks area and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just because I have been to the other Universal parks, and I'm very excited about Epic Universe. It almost feels like I want to go down for Epic Universe, not for Universal's Orlando. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I guess while you're there, you're going to probably at least do 1 day at the other parks and stuff like that. But
I mean, like I've never been to the other Universal parks, and I mean, I'd love to go. My youngest can't go on all the rides that she wants to just yet, so I don't want to be a day of like, you can't go on that, you can't go on that. So I'm waiting for that to come over, because my youngest one is the biggest thrill rider, right? She's probably going to want to go on.
We had a little of that with my youngest too. There was something she could go on.
So I don't want to spend the money and be like, you have to stay to the side now type of thing. So we'll wait on that. But like even that, I don't have a desire to go to Universal. I'd love to see it, but there's no burning like I need to do this, right, type of thing. And I agree with your point. Like I would love to go just for Epic Universe and check it out, but there's no real draw. I'm not a Harry Potter guy either, so it's like I don't have a draw to see that. I would love to see it because it's good craftsmanship, but there's no like burning desire to go. So I kind of get that. For sure. And other things that they were going to do were they're purposely gearing this, and I think this is fairly obvious, seeing what they're doing with other parks, the one that they're opening up in Texas. Adam from Universal was also mentioning that there's a little bit for everybody. They're specifically bringing in kids into the equation rather than just throwing roller coaster after roller coaster. There's a lot of kid aspects of it. And I think that's why there's a carousel right there, right? Because it's something that's easy and fun, and everybody can understand. And their video was nothing but but families with kids going around and having a good time and kind of showing happy faces. So do you think that Universal is going to succeed with like the family destination thing from all that? I mean, obviously we can't tell other than just like looking at um, all the art that they're putting out. But like to
Yeah.
me, it looks like they're putting a major focus on a lot of that stuff.
Oh, they're definitely going after that family market, and that's what you need if you want somebody to come for a week. I mean, not to say adults and stuff like that can't do that, but if it's, you know, you're going after families and they have their week vacation, you know, you need to have stuff for everybody. And I think Epic Universe will appeal. Maybe not every land, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, this past Halloween, you know, Mario was one of the most popular costumes, right? You know, like, I mean, that appeals to a lot of kids. And How to Train Your Dragon, I know that's not something that's big in my house, but I do know a lot of people that their kids are really into it. So yeah, they're definitely going for that. It will be interesting to see, because they do kind of have the lands that appeal maybe more to younger kids, but then they also have like the horror land, you know, the monsters land, which I could see a lot of kids being scared of. Like, yeah, we're not.
Sure.
So some families might not even go in that one land, the dark universe. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, they're definitely pulling at that family group, because they know that's a segment that spends money on vacations, right? And so they're trying to pull that. You know, they see all the money that Disney's made over the years by doing that.
So you wrote down here a rumor on Separate Admission. We heard this rumor a couple months ago, I think, where basically the whole center of the park, from like the hotel to the entrance, is basically open to the public. It's free admission, and you need a ticket to get into the different portals, the different lands. So have you heard of a different rumor? What do you want to?
No, just the same thing. And you know, there's a couple things leading credence to that. They thought that might allow them to even open up some of the lands earlier than others. If they get, say, Nintendo Land done early, they could open that up. I've also heard it's around for corporate events, that it would make it easier for, like, we're renting out the Harry Potter land or something like that, and that's kind of segmented off, and then people can still pay to go to the other ones. It's an interesting concept. I don't know. It's just so different from how parks have evolved, where it's just the pay one admission, get in, and do everything. But some people might like this and say, look, the only thing I care about here is Super Nintendo Land. I'll pay to go to that, and that's cheaper than a day park elsewhere. You know, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting concept. I just feel like if you do that, most people are going to go for like Mario and Harry Potter and stuff. And are people going to pay to go? Are enough people going to pay to go to like the monsters area and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, like maybe like a ticket to each individual land is like $100, and to get everything is like $150 or something else like that, or 100. Well, I don't. A not insignificant amount of money, but not a significant amount of money. I think maybe a difference. Another thing I'm thinking about, since you have a hotel in the park, like being able to have to then have people come into the hotel. You have to like flash a badge or a wrist thing or a key card to get into the park from the hotel. And if the park is open to everybody, you don't have to worry about massive security or they have to worry about security, but they don't have to worry about like catching people with or without tickets coming in a hotel. So it might be a little bit easier on them to do it that way. I don't know. And I don't know how do you get on the two rides that are there.
Yeah. Like if that central area is open, can you just go on the roller coaster free like that? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have to get some sort of ride card, or maybe it's not free to get in, but maybe it's like a low cost to get in, but something. And then, you want to go to Super Nintendo World, that's another $50. You want to go to this one, it's another $50 or whatever. But
yeah,
as I say that though, now that feels like it's getting into the nickel and diming and everything we hate about with Disney, with like, all right, how much is Genie Plus today? I got to pay that. You know, it's like almost
what about like
version of that?
What about like surge pricing for like the different portals? Like Mario is super popular today, so it's an extra $20 versus How to Train Your Dragon or something else like that. I don't think that's going to go over well. And I don't really. I mean, like to me, I'm kind of shocked, only because do you really want the public coming in without discretion, like just jamming up your Central Park? Like, let's say, you're staying at one of they're building 3 new hotels, which is amazing. And they're probably going to be high quality hotels, and people are spending lots of money because they're going to be priced probably somewhere between a Disney moderate and a Disney deluxe, somewhere in the $500-ish a night type of range in some parts, especially the one that's in the park itself.
Yeah, the
That
one
might
in the
be-
park I think is going to be pretty pricey. That might be their
Right.
most expensive hotel.
So let's say that's like, I don't know, $700-800 a night, kind of
Yeah.
like a Polynesian or something else like that. So somebody that's spending that much money on a hotel goes out of their hotel into the park, and it's just jam packed with people that have spent no money to be in this like beautifully curated area and stuff like that. I don't think I'd be very disappointed if I spent all that money to get into the park and it's just jam packed all the time because it's free to come in type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to come across something like that. So I'd be very surprised if that rumor holds true, unless it's like some kind of fee, but it's who knows what it is, whatever it might be. You get $10 to come in or something else like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other takes from the announcement before we move on that you might want to that I forgot to bring up?
No, I think that's a lot of the big stuff, but just I noticed in the video they even had like Steven Spielberg was in it and stuff, and like I mean they're really, you can tell they have passion behind this project. That definitely came through in the video, how like emotionally invested they are in it. And like you said, a lot of the clips they've been pulling of families and stuff are like the ones where they turn the corner and see the Hogwarts castle and stuff, and you can see the emotion on their faces. So they definitely seem to be tapping into that. This isn't just something you go and physically do. It's something you have an emotional connection to by being transported here. And if, hopefully they can pull it off.
One of the things I thought was actually kind of funny, and I picked up on it right away, was in the history of Universal. Like they showed like the clearing of the land. It was kind of black and white, and it was like the building of the studio, and then the park, and it's like showing the rich history of Universal Studios on both coasts, and you can clearly see the influence of like all the Disney Disney World 550th anniversary and the Disney 100, and trying to catch some of those vibes of like, we have a rich history too, and all this other, like, because Disney loves being able to say, our company's 100 years old. It's got like, all those pictures of like Walt in the orange groves building it out of nothing, and then the EPCOT stuff and the Magic Kingdom stuff and all the, and I think Disney wants to kind of tap into that, I don't know, manufactured nostalgia, because there really isn't like decades worth of nostalgia for Universal, but they want to kind of create that atmosphere. And I think it's smart because it's giving people permission to start building nostalgia there if they kind of see and kind of get that feel like there's some, history here and kind of be part of that. So I'm curious how that happens over the next decade with this park. All right, but we want to go over to some Disney World stuff. Enough about Universal. We're not Universal experts, but I can't wait till this opens so we can start figuring out how to plan a good vacation around this and see price points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you wanted to talk about this week, because you wanted to talk about this before all the Epic Universe stuff came out, was you found an interesting Disney Food Blog article, and we had some good chats about it on Discord. So why don't you set that up?
Yeah, so it's a YouTube video that Disney Food Blog put out, and they ranked all of the dining restaurants at EPCOT. And obviously it's EPCOT, it's eating at Disney, and it's a list. So it's like everything I love. And it also created, I think, good discussion just thinking about like, how do you, when you're ranking these, like, what do you rate a Disney restaurant on? Because they had their way of doing it, like things that they put, more or less weight into. And it seemed like they tried to combine everything, like food quality and stuff like that.
Right.
But they put a lot of weight into, is this sort of a unique experience that's providing me something different that I can't get at home, and that sort of thing, which I think is what I put a lot of weight into as well. So the list was similar to probably what I'd have. Definitely a couple I disagreed with heavily. But it was just interesting to see that. And when you, that led to a lot of good discussions and debate, I think, on Discord as well. Like when you think about which restaurants do they like, and some people are arguing, saying like, I can't believe this one was low. And it's like, well, actually I agree with it being low because of X, Y, Z.
Well, let's start there. I mean, I'm looking at your list. You've been to almost all of them. I have not been to hardly any of them, because I'm a big booth eater, so I don't really spend the time with my kids going to restaurants. We kind of eat and pick all the way around Epcot. The only one I just didn't notice, which one is the is that La Hacienda? That's where you can get the outside eatery there. That's the only one.
Yeah. So the one, so they had all the different ones
One
at,
more.
at the Mexico Pavilion. La Hacienda de San Angel is the outdoor one. And then
That's
the
a
San
family
Angel
favorite.
Inn is the one that's inside the pyramid.
Okay, so how do you want to break this down? Because you had some discussion. It's nice, but I don't want to list 29 different places here. But what for you? Why don't you go over, since this is your list, some of the standouts you thought that were like you really agree with, and the outliers on both sides, and then we'll go over the ones that we both ate at, and then kind of go from there.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the top ones I do agree with, at least the ones that I've eaten at. They put Garden Grill second spot. I think that's an excellent restaurant that has kind of food and most people eat and is unique because it's a rotating restaurant, and it has the characters and stuff like that. So it's not something I can get at home. So that was one that I definitely agreed with. Their number one, just to list it, is Le Cellier. I haven't eaten there, so I can't rank it, but I know a lot of people do really appreciate that one. Seeing some of the other ones that are high on there, Le Halles, the quick service in France. It was nice to see. La Halle. I always say that one wrong. La Halle. Clearly, I'm not French.
You and you and Matt do the same thing. I just laugh at. That's fine though.
So that was good. Rose and Crown scored pretty high, which I think is a unique type setting and stuff like that.
It's number 9. Yep.
Yeah. And then on the end, I think the interesting thing was, they ranked them. They also rated it like out of 10, so 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, whatever they would give it. The lowest rated one they have here is the Lotus Blossom Cafe. And even that, I think it got a 5 out of 10. Like, it wasn't like, this isn't bad. It's just compared to the other options in EPCOT, it's last. So, that one was low. Coral Reef was 26. That was pretty low. They had both of the new crepe place in France. The inside one was their third lowest location. A little higher was the quick service outdoor one. But that was kind of interesting that it's a newer location, but it scored very, very low.
So let's go over some of the ones that we've both ate at, so we both kind of have like a conversation about it. I think it's 2, 4, 6, 7 of these, so we'll list them all.
Okay.
And go through all of them all. So the last one on the list is ranked number 22. It's the Crepier, I say Importor, or I don't know. It's the outside crepes place, basically.
Yeah, the quick service one, yeah.
Out of all of these listed, I agree that it's the lowest ranked one out of this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this one, or the one that's right, 2 spots above it, I think are definitely the lowest of the ones that we've been at. So I enjoy that one though. I think it's a nice place to get a quick crepe, and your kids like it and stuff. But yeah, when you're making a list, it's not going to be at the top.
I mean, even the crepes aren't very good. I mean, it's just like you get something on like with all this powdered sugar, you have nowhere to eat it around there. You have to like kind of walk. You either get the benches kind of leading back there, or you have to carry it far to sit down at the table to eat it. You definitely need to sit down because you got to cut it with a knife and fork to eat it. I mean, they're just pancakes. I mean, with sugar on them. I'm not super impressed. And I've never been able to get a quick one there. It's always been a pain in the butt to get through that line. So, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, they're good, but the price and the time it takes to kind of do it, I'm not a big fan. The next one on our list is ranked number 20, like you mentioned, 2 spots above. It's the Connections Cafe. I mean, I might agree that we could switch these places around. I mean, it's just a cafeteria, right? Or a very, very long line for Starbucks, depending on which side you want to eat on.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a comment about it. It's just.
Yeah, I think it's one that when it felt like when it first opened, they talked about having more variety of food and more, not exotic's not the right word, but just more different food. I think it's kind of been pared down to be more kind of common food, pizzas and burgers and stuff, because every park needs those, because that's the palate of some people, or just that day that's what you feel like. So it's not bad, but it's nothing exciting.
No. The next one is 3 spots down. They rank number 17. It's Space 220. Now we're getting to one of the restaurants where you can spend a lot of money for a single meal.
Oh yeah.
They could typically, what is the prefix? Is it like for lunch? It's around $50 or $60 the last time.
I think it's 55, something like that for lunch, and 79 or something like that for dinner.
Something like that. And for me, like, I was super excited to go here. We went there in our adult trip last summer, or summer of 22. Is it 22 or is it? Yeah, somewhere 22. And personally, I was like, I can't wait to see the like immersive restaurant. I mean, and all this other stuff. The elevator ride was fun. The actual dining area was actually relatively boring to me. I mean, it had cool screens, but like nothing was going on. They had like some elevator music playing all over the place. It was kind of like low key, like just I don't know, just drab. Like it'd be cool if you could see like a space fight going on outside or like spaceships flying around and docking. That wasn't just kind of like whatever. But then again, if you were eating in space, like there'd probably be nothing happening outside
Most of the
anyway,
time,
right?
you're there. Yeah.
So I guess it's real that in that case. I thought the food was absolutely good. I mean, like it wasn't fantastic, but it was like
Yeah.
a solid meal. Like I didn't feel like it was bad food. It's just the price point at lunch for $55 a person. We had to spend like $150 between my wife and I. And I totally forgot that it was a prefix menu coming up there, and we weren't going to the lounge. I'm like, I got blindsided by that because I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just grab a quick lunch, and it's just like, you have to have this 3-course meal and all this other stuff. So it's kind of like, I'm glad we went. I probably will never go again because I don't think it's the values there. And compared to everything else on this list, I can kind of see why it's kind of like middle of the road, so to speak. So I kind of
Yeah.
agree with the general area of where this is put.
Yeah, and the way she said it was like some people love this one because they really love the theming and the food and stuff. So for them, it's going to be way higher. Other people really hate it because they didn't like the food as much, or due to the price, they're like, I'm never going there. So they kind of split the difference and put it towards the middle. But I think that's probably about where it is, and it really is the price that makes it. I think it's it's like kind of the perfect one and done for us. It's like I'm glad we did it, but we don't unless they start changing it up a lot. I don't really feel the need to go back anytime soon. So.
I mean, I would love to be able to go up there and get an appetizer and a drink if you're able to do that without having to wait hours to get online or something like that. But this is a cool spot where I can go in, have 1 or 2 beers, and like an order of French fries. I know Disney doesn't want me doing that, but to me, that's
you can reserve a spot at the lounge. It can be hard to get those, and they're really just tables for 2 and stuff. But that is an option. That's probably something I could see. If maybe my wife and I doing or something like that if we were down there by ourselves. But
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Next on the list was number 16, right after Space 220 is La Hacienda de San Angel. That's basically you can get some burritos and some nachos. It's like your typical Mexican fare that you sit outside. I would not put this at 16. I would definitely put this closer to the top if we're going to equally balance quick service versus table service, and we're not like disqualifying one or the other because it's not $100 meal at the top end of it. I think where you eat, like every time I've gone, it's been busy and moderately busy. I've been able to get a table there relatively easily. I mean, I still had to wait in one instance, like 10, 20 minutes to get it.
Just to be clear, this is the table service one that's outside. The quick service one. Yeah, the quick service one outside is La Cantina de San Angel, which is number 25 on the list. There's 3 Mexican restaurants.
See, that's why I was asking you before. Okay, well, let's go back to that one at 25. Okay. I screwed that because I just remember de San Angel in there, and I was like, okay. And San Angel's the one that's inside across. Wow, there's too many restaurants over there. Yeah. So number 25, La Cantina. That's totally right. Now I'm slightly embarrassed. In any case, 25 is way too low for that. Because what I was saying was you can get decent food. You can find a place to eat. If you can eat out there, it's actually a nice place to eat. It's over the water. It's kind of away from the crowds of people that are walking by. If you get something a little bit farther in, the food is good. Margaritas are good. The price isn't nutty or anything else like that. And I think it's just I mean, I don't know. My daughter loves Mexican food, so she always like, we need to go there and get nachos. We need to get there and go nachos. So there's a little personal bias there, but I think for what you're getting and where you're sitting, it's pretty good, and it's not crowded because they keep people from going back there. Right, there's a line to get in, so they kind of meter people in and out. So it's never super crowded. So I like it. I wanted to put it at 25. I'd probably put it somewhere between I don't know, probably like 8 and 14, somewhere in that range. Personally,
okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of more lower in the list. It's fine. It's okay Mexican food. I just think there's much better options and different things to be had in EPCOT, and it usually has a long line. They don't do mobile ordering there.
True.
it just has a few strikes against it for me. It's again, it's not bad. We've eaten there, we've enjoyed it, but it's not one that unless somebody's like won't eat anything else, but says they'll eat nachos.
Of course, yeah.
Otherwise, we're probably picking something else.
So another one that's next on the list is Akershus. They have it ranked at 12. I've been there a number of occasions. I've been there when it was a half buffet and half like menu, and I've been there with the new version where it's all prefix menu, family style. I like meals both. I like the meal at the newer version of it better than the old one, though the old one, old style, wasn't bad at all either. I like their it was very the Norway fare that they had in the buffet was always really interesting to me. I kind of liked digging through that and having some of that taste to it. It's a character meal. It's an incredible value because is it still 1 credit on the dining plan?
It's 1 credit for breakfast, 2 credits for lunch and dinner.
See, that's where it was, because it used to be 1 credit for dinner.
It used to be 1 credit for everything there. Yeah, it used to be that's the 1 credit version instead of doing Cinderella's Royal Table.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they caught on to that obviously quickly. I always thought the food was good. It's really cool inside. It's a lot of space. It's a really big restaurant, but it never gets super loud in there either. It's definitely not a be our guest type of environment. There's plenty of kids in there. They're meeting the princesses, but I always thought that it's probably one of the best atmospheres to have a character meal that's not being in the actual castle in Magic Kingdom. Most of the other character dining, like a Tusker House or Crystal Palace or Chef Mickey's, it's more of a cafeteria with like a lot of different rooms in it, and it's just like you could just see people just devouring food. Here, at least there's some level of I don't want to say privacy, but each room wasn't big enough to let like you know that there's hundreds of people in here, right? So great atmosphere. The food is really good. I wouldn't put it at 12. I'd put it in the top 10, but it's at 12, so it's relatively close. I tend to agree with where this is at.
Yeah, so I haven't been there since it reopens. I haven't done the latest menu, but we've done it a few times in the past for both. I think all 3 meals we've done there, and yeah, we really enjoy it. It's a very unique setting. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fancy going into a castle type thing. Obviously, you have the princesses. We've always enjoyed the food, especially the breakfast food. But all the meals we've had good food there. I would. There's definitely a few above this one that I would move below it. So yeah, I think it would make it into my top 10.
Yep. The next one that we have is at number 9, the Rose and Crown. I've only eaten here once, and I've only eaten there for the Candlelight Processional dining package. So I don't know this restaurant from its yesteryear, and I don't know if they changed the menu. I thought the menu when we had it, this was December of 22, was quite limiting.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the video too, and it's 100% true. It used to be more expansive with some more unique offerings. They've kind of pared it down to kind of just the stereotypical British type food, and it's they cook it well. It's fine, but I think it's not as good as it used to be.
The fish and chips were good, but then my wife is a vegetarian. She didn't really have any good options. My kids had like their kids' meals, and they were just like, it was like awful chicken breast and like steamed vegetable. I mean, I guess maybe that's what they have in the UK. It's bad food, but I would never go again and spend the money on that. It's awesome inside. Don't get me wrong. It's a great building, but it's definitely not worth the price of that food. I mean, I'd rather take that and hit up 4 or 5 booths and share that with my family than sitting there and have their food. So Rose and Crown, they have at 9. I would put this near 20, maybe. If you had to move it back, where would you move it back to?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely move it back. Yeah, in the 15 to 20 range. That part, I think it's kind of lower second half.
Fair enough. The next one I have on my list, but I could have sworn that you've eaten here. You've never eaten anything at the Regal Eagle Smokehouse?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay. So never mind. That's something that I have on there. It's really good. I don't know if I put it at 5, but anyway.
Yeah, they put it on here just because it was really good. It was reliable. It seemed like they gave it kind of bonus points because the previous dining location in that spot was like terrible. So I think just like for like, you know, it most improved, I guess it gave it some bonus points. And, you know, obviously the slight Muppet theming and stuff like that, I think it scored well. I know a lot of people like it. 5 does seem a little high for this, just like kind of from what I've heard, and a couple of the nicer restaurants that they put right behind it. But
Yep.
it seems like a solid entry.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't put it at 5. It's good, but it's not fifth best in the park.
Yeah.
The last one on our list is number 4. It's La Hall. I really love this spot. I made a mention on Discord where the best value for food is buying a baguette for $3.25 from this
Yeah.
place late in the day, and that's a great snack to have when they give you all the butter you want, if that's something that you want to do. The bread is nice. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's not like a fresh bakery good, but it's almost there, depending on what time of the day that you get it. So I'm very happy with La Hall. My wife loves going in there, getting macaroons. She goes in there and gets we went in there and got 4 different things and shared them with the family. They all had really good taste to them. The place is extremely efficient. They pump people in and out of that place. And for us, it's a must do every single time we go to EPCOT. It's
we always
that good
stop
for
there
us.
for sure.
So even if it's just for a snack or it's for something to eat, we always make sure we get into that place. So at number 4, that would be my favorite place to go in Epcot. I don't know if I can rank it for 1 because there's a lot of sit down meals, obviously, that I've never experienced. So I can't put it in 1, but being at number 4 is for somebody else's list that probably has a lot of that experience is very, very strong to me.
Yeah,
for that.
sure.
It's definitely top 10 if I had more experience there, but I don't think I've eaten anywhere at Epcot that I wouldn't rank anything in the top 5 that I've experienced there because I know there's a lot of restaurants that deserve to be in the top 5.
The only thing I
personally.
ding it for, I fully agree with everything you said, and it's definitely in my top 10. The only thing I ding it for, and maybe it's just we've had bad luck, but it seems like we have trouble finding seating there after you get your food, which is fine if you're just getting it and going somewhere else. But if you kind of want to sit down in air conditioning for a little bit, we've had trouble finding seats there. And we've noticed there that seems to be a popular spot where people have their laptops out or just kind of sitting there. Yeah, they're kind of just hanging out. Yeah, so.
I've never eaten in there. I've never been able to find a seat inside.
Okay, yeah.
We've always eaten at the curb or go into the front and find somewhere in the France Pavilion where there's an open seating somewhere. Yeah. We've always kind of hung out there, but always outside. All right, that's it with the dining, I believe.
Yeah, I was just going to add 2 quick things, maybe comment on some of the ones that maybe were in spots people disagreed with. One was that Teppan Edo was their second lowest one. And that was one that our friend Zach reacted to real quickly, saying that's his favorite place. And he was shocked at how low it was. That's one I haven't eaten at. And I think that's why for me, it would be fairly low on my list because we have a lot of hibachi places around us. So it's I'm not going to go and pay Disney prices for something I feel I can get kind of comparable at home. Although I have heard good things about it. I know quite a few people that really enjoy it. But I think, and that's the reason why they put it so low on their list was that it's hibachi. It's done well, but most people have a hibachi place in their town. And then the other one I was going to comment is probably my one that I disagree with the most.
Is it number 3?
Number 3, yeah, Via Napoli.
I knew it.
I just wasn't impressed by it. It was fine. I thought the pizza was okay. I mean, by Disney standards, it's good pizza, but that's not saying much. And I thought it was, for what you were getting, it was way overpriced. And it was definitely a one and done for us. But I know I'm probably the exception. I know a lot of people that it's every trip they go there. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a stubborn New Yorker that has, high views of pizza and stuff like that. But for me, that's the one that I disagreed with probably the most.
If I'm not in North Jersey or New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, or in Chicago, I'm not going to any Italian place on purpose, right? And that includes Epcot at Disney World. Why am I having pizza or pasta there? I know where to get good pasta if I really want to.
Yeah.
It makes me sad moving to Maryland. There's nowhere to get good Italian food by me now anyway. So I don't know, maybe my taste bud has changed. I might think it's good now because my taste has been eroded. All right. So are we ready for the, we're at 48-minute mark. We had a game about Epic Universe and we also have the DBC engagement. I don't think
why don't we just go
both.
straight to the DBC engagement and then maybe save the game for next week.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so last week, if you don't remember, the question was, what is the biggest, best, most successful planning tip or strategy that you've used before that is no longer helpful? So I mean, the clear, obvious ones are the fast pass type of stuff, because obviously
Yeah.
fast pass doesn't exist. But we were looking for some other things that, obviously they don't. You're no longer helpful because some things no longer exist. But it could also talk about the turn of how different Disney World is now than it was 5 years ago, type of thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to do ours first, Phil? Or do you want to do the community?
Yeah. Why
first?
don't we go through ours first, and then maybe if any in the community had ours, then we can kind of skip through those.
All right, I'll go through mine first because I think I stole some of yours from the way you have some of these written here. You have one really good one I didn't think about. So some of the biggest tips in planning always revolved around your 30 or 60-day mark, right? You're always counting down to your 60-day mark because that's when your real planning started. You already had your ADRs at 180 way back when. Now is the 60-day mark. And right now the 60-day mark is you plug in your ADRs and that's it. And you carry on your day. And even ADRs today, some of them are hard to get, some of them aren't, and you just kind of live with it and you make adjustments, right? It's not a big push the way it used to be with FastPass Plus. So the 60-day mark, I don't think really means anything else anymore. And I know you had some of that stuff in there. Did you want to?
Yeah, so I was doing specifically kind of the 60 plus 10 when you're staying on property, that it wasn't just 60 days, but it was 60 days from your check-in day. So all the strategies around, okay, the hardest ones to get, usually back then it was like Slinky Dog or whatever. So you would plan your Hollywood Studios day for being later in your trip so that you were able to book it like 64 days or whatever. And you were able to, so that still kind of works for dining, but it used to be a big thing for planning your park days to have the harder to get fast passes later in your trip, so that you got up to the 60 plus 10.
And if you were really extreme, you booked a phantom booking like the week before, so you got an actual 7 days. So you were able to book 17. If you had a 1 week trip that you're actually going on, you would book a previous week, and then you can book 14 days out, which is less people have access to that date, obviously.
Yeah, I think it was actually it maxed out at 10. So, but still you could, it maxed out at 60 plus 10. But even if you did that, then you'd still have the rolling where all your days are 60 plus 10 out or whatever. So
yeah, no, for sure. Mine is touring plans. Touringplans.com is big on this, where you kind of put in all the attractions that you want to do, and they gave you like basically a step-by-step guide on what to do in the park. And if you use their app, it constantly updated with live information on wait times, and it kind of adjusted, but it also kept your walking distance to a minimum. So it was quite clever. And if you liked kind of just staring at your phone and using that as a GPS in your park, you could do that. I never liked doing that, which is unfortunate because that's kind of what we do now with GD Plus. So did you ever use touring plans in that kind of functionality?
We never got into the detail thing where it would really try to plan out your day and stuff like that. I either would just do it on my own. I might use some of their like tips and stuff like that, but I never really used them to generate the whole plan, because we usually never got that detailed. It was more of like whatever the key things we wanted to do and kind of the meals and the fast passes, but then we kind of played it by ear a little bit. I know some people plan to the minute and stuff like that, so touring plans probably help them out a bit more.
Yeah, and the reason why it doesn't work is if you have Genie Plus, it really doesn't really help you out at that point, because that's kind of the big wild card. But if you don't use Genie Plus, it certainly is helpful if you want to do something like that. Which leads me to refreshing. It's not as helpful anymore, but you could still refresh, and it's just more anxiety driven too, because so much is relied upon it now. Before you could refresh, and let's say you did Space Mountain earlier in the day, you go through all of your original 3 and a couple more, you could refresh and get Space Mountain again. That's what was really cool about it. You could do the same attraction again on a refresh. Now with GD Plus, basically all you're doing is refreshing later times and potentially something that's available now that you can get on if you're lucky enough to find a slot. So refreshing is just not as helpful, and it might cause more problems than not if you're getting caught up with different times. My next one was, there's always the old strategy of go left at Magic Kingdom, because more people went to the right when the park opened, and everybody should go to the left. The lines with rope dropping and certain parts of the park that are closed, and the immense level of crowds at Magic Kingdom, it really doesn't make a difference anymore. So just go where you want. So another thing is dining plan tips. There are some dining plan tips out there right now. What was it? The plate pig that we talked about last week, where you have a
Yeah.
really good quick service thing. Those are good tips, but dining plans overall, they have lost their value in over the years, and even more so now. You get like one less snack. You can't convert table service credits to quick service credits or quick service to snacks. So there's a lot less flexibility in the dining plan, and you can basically ask like 2 or 3 questions. And we talked about this in a couple episodes ago, and say whether or not the dining plan is worth it to you from just a dollar point of view. So I think a lot of that dining plan type stuff kind of went out the window once it was, after it has its new iteration now post COVID. I think that's one thing, and I think you have one good one.
Yeah, the other one that because I struggled with a little bit because I was trying not to just pick things that are just like don't exist anymore. I was trying to think of things that are different based on crowd behavior, and one is crowd calendars. I felt like in the past they were helpful. They really kind of pointed out slower times to go and that sort of things, and which parks would be better, which days. Now I feel like they have no idea. I mean, I think touring plans tries, and they might, that sort of thing. And I think as they're gathering more data, but ever since, we've reopened the parks, it's just crowds are behaving differently. It seems like people are avoiding the crowded times more often, like, especially like, July 4th is a crazy day to go. So nobody goes anymore because they're expecting it to be crazy. And then like summer's slow and like, I don't know. It's just, that's the one that probably hurts. Hurts is maybe not the right word, but like I used them a lot in the past to try to pick like which park to do which day and stuff like that. So knowing now that I can't rely on them, it's kind of frustrating.
I never used them, honestly. I mean, I kind of used them a little bit to influence what park and what days, but I usually pick my park days based on the cadence of the week, where I feel like being at what duration of the park or duration of the trip I'm at. But I think one, Genie Plus really screwed up that behavior of the park. 2, park hopping limitations really screwed up a lot of things. And now that park hopping restrictions are gone, I think all the crowd calendars over the last couple of years can you just kind of toss them, because the data is not going to be relevant to your predictive model anymore, because crowds are going to be acting different because they're allowed to do different things now. So I'm curious to see how crowd calendars, after they've been adjusted, after they come out and they were wrong, they go back and adjust them for that year. Especially like Thrill Data does a good job of showing all the crowd calendars all in like one page. They got a really good like heat map of that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about going back and see that. But yeah, definitely crowd calendars to me were a lot of people used them. I never did, but I can understand your point of view now. It's just like, it's a 7. Is it a 7? It might be a 3. Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll see. Couple good ones out there. For example, Lumpy had some outdated advice for Fast Pass and where to go for them. How to rope drop. Rope drop was one that I almost thought about putting in there. Rope dropping still has some good tips, but I don't think it's as influential about your trip if you rope drop or not. I still think you can get 1 or 2 attractions in there, but I don't think it's really affecting your day too much.
It feels like it's still a benefit, but you almost have to now be at like the front of the rope drop line.
Yeah.
Because otherwise so many people are rope dropping now, because again, word got out that you have to rope drop, and they all go to the same rides, especially in parks like Epcot and stuff like that. And sometimes you see the lines just get real long right during rope drop, and then sometimes it dies down a little bit after, because now all the rope drop people have gotten through and stuff. So
that happened to us last year for Remy. We rope dropped Remy. It was like an hour and a half wait because we were at the end of the line. We didn't think about getting there 40 minutes before rope drop. We got there at rope drop. Big mistake, obviously. And granted, we would have gotten there earlier, but the family was moving a little bit slow that morning, so that's the best we could do. But as soon as we got out, all the lines were gone. It was like it was almost like a walk on into the building for the line. We're like, what are we doing with ourselves? But you're totally right on that. TL Madden had rope drop and isn't as useful anymore, so he's seeing that. And Weezy has some interesting ones. And I don't understand what some of his tips are. But so he said, like, take the friendship boats between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Have buses, so there's no buses anymore. I don't think he doesn't think with the sky. They don't have any buses going between Epcot and Hollywood Studios anymore. So the bus kind of, or any kind of, they do, don't they do the boats between those two parks? or no? Do you have to go to like a resort first?
So you can take the boat. I think it does stop along. I don't know if it's a direct. I think
Right.
it does stop at the resorts along the way, but you could take a boat there. I think he was saying those are better than waiting on the buses because the buses don't run since the Skyliner got built. But he was saying take the boats instead of the Skyliner. He doesn't seem to be a fan of the Skyliner.
I love the Skyliner. It's like the best thing of the whole park. It's just like my moment of zen going in.
Yeah.
I wish I could. I could have a whole episode of how amazing the Skyliner is, and people would never listen to that. Wheezy had another good point where there is no longer unexpiring or non-expiring park tickets, where you could buy a whole boatload of them and then save them up over the years and kind of do that, because obviously parks tickets go up every single year. That's no longer a thing. And Ryan had a good point where he also says one of the things that doesn't exist anymore in the past that they've used is the planning around virtual queues. Basically it's always thrown a wrench into everything that he's ever done and getting called a lot sooner than expected. So that versus like the fast pass, like the whole system, like you can't really plan around that type of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I think the first virtual queue was like the boarding group at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And you kind of planned around that. Now it's just kind of, you get them or you don't. And they're so for me, they're so random. I'm a big fan of virtual queues, but I absolutely hate them also on the other side.
Yeah.
It's a strong word. I don't use that often, but I do hate them.
It is. I mean, that is a good point to bring up, just how different that aspect is from before, when you could pre-plan your Fast Pass Pluses. You knew ahead of time. You picked a time for them, and so you knew when those times were for those three things at least during the day. And it was much easier to go into the day with a plan.
Yeah.
Not to say things can't change or whatever, but at least you had a plan. Now you can have a plan, but like we talk about all the time with project management, day of, because you don't know if you're going to get a virtual queue. If you do, what time it is, and like Ryan says here, it could get called a lot earlier, and then you got to shift things around. And if you're doing Genie Plus, you have to take the next available. You don't get to pick your return time, so it's just a very different. And it doesn't mean like one's amazing and one's terrible, but it's just a very different way to have to do the parks now.
Yeah, so for me personally, I love the idea of a virtual queue, that I have this ticket now that I can get onto a line. It's still a standby line, but it's not going to be that long, right? So if I want, like back in the day, Mine Train could go up to 2-hour waits, or Flight of Passage, 2-hour waits. At least if were on virtual queue at the time, it'd still be a long wait, but it'd be like a 50-minute wait or a 40-minute wait, which is a lot more manageable. What I really dislike about virtual queues, like you just mentioned, is it anchors you at a time. So when you sprint for that time and you get it for 10 o'clock in the morning, like, wow, my like for me, the one strategy that's always still important is, what is your park strategy the first 2 hours you're going to be in the park, right? You have some semblance of what you want to do that morning, or the first couple hours, or right after lunch, whenever you're going in. When you get a virtual queue, it's like, we're just going to say you need to come here by 3 o'clock. And you're like, well, I was probably going to get lunch and kind of being in Norway, and I have to go all the way up there for Guardians. And it kind of makes you change things on the fly, which kind of makes your day like kind of grumpy that you're forcing you to be at that part of the park. So we'll see how, like, if it's Guardians, not a big deal, because apparently, and I've witnessed this, they're very lenient on your return time. But in Tron, maybe they're telling me they're going to be more lenient, but I don't know if I believe that. I wouldn't trust it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And risk losing it. Anything else on these tips that you want to get through, Phil? Because I think we're right at the end of the show. Did I miss anything?
No, I think the other ones are either similar to the things we've covered or the same. So I think we got through a lot of the good ones.
Yeah. Lumpy had like 6 things because he did not listen to the show first, and then he just kind of went in. Everybody's cheating about the events. This has happened the last 2 weeks. Like, I set the events for like the next day, but they're seeing them at night before the event goes live, and they're kind of putting things. Not that it makes a difference, but it's just fun.
Just have fun with it. Do what you want to do.
Do whatever you want. But I'm gonna call you a cheater if you go early. Next week's engagement question is going to be about dining. Because I didn't really want to bring up an Epic Universe type of one. So next week's question is, how have your eating habits or plans for Walt Disney World changed over the years? This could be just you changing as a person and your taste changing. This is maybe your family has grown, or maybe your kids are out of the house and you're now going as, 2 people rather than your family. Maybe you're bringing grandkids into the parks. And how are things changing? How are you considering food in the parks? I'm always interested in talking to people how they used to do the parks for the first 2 or 3 trips that they went as a family, and how you do it now as a veteran, a grizzly old veteran of going to the parks, so maybe like your 4th, 5th, or 6th trip, and how things change. Because I certainly have changed quite a bit on how I eat in the parks, and I've been telling that story for nearly 5 years, Phil, on this podcast. So I always love those type of stories. So hop into Discord, once the event goes live, and not a moment sooner. Tell us how your eating habits. Do you do more quick service? Do you do more table service? Do you do more mixer of both? Do you do nothing? Do you only eat pretzels and churros while you're at Disney World? I don't know, but I would love to hear your story. So feel free to jump in there, and I have a lot of cool things that I kind of want to go over how I've evolved in my thinking and continuing my evolution of my eating habits, because I think it's changed again after my latest trip. But we'll talk about that more next week. Anything else, Phil? I know I've already asked you anything else, but now anything else for the whole show, not just that particular segment?
No, nothing else new came to mind.
Good. Just checking. Again, thank you everybody else for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Please hit those buttons. And if you haven't been to Discord, please get to Discord. And if you are on Discord, make sure you actually get to level 3 in Discord. We had one lurker pop out because he congratulated somebody for joining, and he got to level 2, and we tricked him for actually contributing. So we appreciate everybody that hops in and shares their opinions. With that being said, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.